expect it to be live now. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you. Please feel free to, comment in the chats and let me know if you can drop a question. Happy to take your answers. For this session, I'll just dive right into it by talking about myself, what I do, and how we can get this party started. Good morning to you from wherever you call in, or good day to you. I expect it's morning for the most of us, but yeah, that's about it. So, sure, how to thrive ahead of the cookieless world. Now, before I go ahead and talk about that, I'm just going to, talk about myself. Right, I'm a marketing, sales, and product guy. Um, in the past few years, I've been more interested in ad tech and programmatic specialties as a marketing person, right? So, as in that's within the advertising space, within marketing. So, yes, I've been more invested in the ad tech and programmatic side of things. I'm ex ad firm. At the time, I registered or signed up for this for the BeMore festival. I was still with Adfirm, but I no longer work with Adfirm. Uh, between jobs now, still under wraps. So yes, ex Adfirm, ex Eskimi, ex Opera, and as far as it's been an interesting space, the ad tech space, particularly lately, in the wake of the cookie deprecation, right? So I mean, there's been a lot that's been in talks about the cookie and its impact for brands, for businesses, especially digital businesses, right? And besides the work, when I'm off work, I'm an anime guy, right? No shame in that. For about a decade and a half, I've been, you know, um, seeing anime. Uh, I didn't get to watch the greats like Dragon Ball DZ. If you're an anime, oh, great to meet you, anime guys. Yeah, um, definitely good stuff going in the anime world. I'm very pleased to see your feedback, to read your feedback. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. And yes, definitely, you will find me to be more of a couch potato guy than an outdoors guy. Outside is the enemy as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, I like to go out from time to time, but yeah, I'm more of an anime person than an indoor person, couch potato. So yeah, that's it about me. I see that folks are joining, and the majority of us look to be product guys, which is great. I feel that product guys should, be more involved in the marketing sphere of things. But that's just my personal opinion. And so let's jump right into the meat of today's session, right? Um, my agenda will have us go through from we'll talk about the cookie, right? So, what is a cookie? Of course, it's not just a marketing or advertising buzzword. We'll talk about it in a bit of detail, right? We'll talk about what first party cookies are, what third party cookies are. And when we talk about cookie deprecation, what does that mean, right? What is the party pooper? What went wrong? In the industry, why did people suddenly start getting talking about the cookie, and what does it mean for your brand today, whether you're a product guy, whether you're a marketing or sales guy, or whether you're an engineer, right? And how can you set up your own house party, right? So since we're talking about parties, how can you set up your own intuitive environment that will help you thrive in the cookieless world, as we're talking about it, right? So first things first, what is the cookie? We're not going to go into geek talk here. In short and simple terms, a cookie is a small piece of data, right? That you get from a domain, right? So from a website. So let's say my website is ademola.com, and I want to be able to simplify the process for my users. I want to be able to, let's say, when they log in, you want to make it easier for them to, I need some data from them. That's the reality. So the cookie helps to track users and collect data from them, and it's all for the purpose of helping them. At least that's some cookies are for that purpose, right? Generally, cookies are not the enemy, right? It is the way that cookies are used that makes the cookies the enemy. That is, to be honest. And the thing about cookies is that piece of data, the most important part that makes the cookie really fundamentally important for the marketing ecosystem is that they typically contain an identifier, right? So like an ID number, a unique ID number that helps helps the issuer of the cookie. It could be a particular domain. We'll talk about how cookies are different. What makes first party cookies and third party cookies different, right? So the cookie typically contains an ID number or an identifier, right? That helps the issuer of the cookie be able to determine that this user is different from the next user and the likes. Cookies live in the browser, right? And fun fact, cookies can be deleted, as some of you may have, realized, maybe from experimenting and stuff. So that's what is important to note about the cookie. Uh, but now let's talk about what types of cookies we have, right? We've got first party cookies and we've got third party cookies, right? And what is the difference majorly? So previously I mentioned that some or cookies generally exist to help improve your experience, right? So whether it's your experience while you're dwelling in Facebook, after logging in, or whether you're dwelling in your Gmail account after logging in, you want to improve the whole purpose is to improve your experience, right? Now, first party cookies, to differentiate them from third party cookies, first party cookies, they are usually created, stored, and managed by the particular website that you're visiting. So you visit a facebook.com, for example. Facebook's first party cookies would be um, they are the piece of data that Facebook would store to help recognize you and your preferences on the Facebook platform. Maybe Facebook is a wrong example because people are very conscious or wary about Facebook. So, but whichever platform that you're, let's say Gmail, you log into your Gmail account. Gmail first party cookies will be designed to help remember your preferences, recognize you, remember your profile, and if, for example, you could purchase stuff on Gmail, it would save your basket information, right? That is your checkout details, and so that it's easy for reference for you. So cookies were originally designed, or cookies were originally designed, yeah, to make life easier for you on the web, right? And this is where we start talking about third party cookies, right? First party cookies, or they belong to the particular domain that you're visiting, right? Now, third party cookies are created by other domains besides that one that you're visiting. And the sole purpose is for serving ads, right? So for tracking users. And like we said, uh, marketing is not the villain, right? So that shoe brand that's been tracking you across Facebook, and across the web ever since you went to their e-commerce page. That brand is not the enemy, right? It is how it's all being used that presents it as something really tough for the audience. So yeah, as I was saying, third party cookies are used for optimizing ads that are targeted towards you, right? Sometimes you care about the ads that you're getting. Most times you don't really give 2 cents, right? You don't give an ass, and that's when the problem sets in. So third-party cookies will typically be used for your audience targeting. If you're a marketing person, you would definitely relate. May I pass? Do we have marketing folks in the house? Show me some love if you're in marketing, if you're in content, if you run ads from time to time. Let me get an emoji from your side. Okay, that's one, that's two, that's three. Okay, now we're coming in. Yes, great stuff. So you would probably understand this. And if you're in content, you're in design, you probably worked with the marketing folks, you're in product, you work with the marketing folks. So you would, of course, understand what I'm saying. You can relate to things, especially if you've had to worry about building user personas, you've had to worry about segmenting your audience, you had to worry about about the really important stuff in marketing, right? Which one of the important things is being able to track the audience, being able to understand their their activities across the digital channel and all that stuff. Being able to track, being able to retarget. So these things are a pain point, for marketing guys. And like we said, cookies themselves are not the enemy. It is how they're used, that really poses the big problem. So in practice, you could use cookies. Cookies would help you, build your marketing personas. And for example, if someone is browsing, checking out workout training materials, for example, you're doing e-commerce, and then you're researching on dumbbells, on best ways to cut out your pot belly. Most of us have a pot belly thanks to remote work and couch potato number one here. I do have a pot belly, so I've been doing that kind of research lately. Now, if you're checking out those kinds of stuff, you're looking at dietary supplements, you're looking at sports supplies and how to lose weight, then you're most likely, as a marketing person, if I see that kind of trend, then you're most likely going to fall into the category of users that is interested in sports and training. And if you're looking for it at that point and you get an ad on exactly what you're looking for and exactly what you need, then you would not be disinterested. Which is why I said the ads themselves are not the enemy, and cookies are not the enemy. So that leads us to the main issue here. What was the problem? What went wrong with cookies? How did the cookie hero go dark? Right. So what was the part pooper? Right. And the big issue was that not all users knew that they were tracked. Okay. Um, and not just that they didn't know that they were tracked, they didn't know why they were tracked, what purposes or what their data was being used for. Right. So users were tracked without consent. They already added cookies to their browsers, because cookies are stored in the browsers, on your PC, on your mobile, or wherever. Right. So users were tracked without consent, and or gave their consent to have cookies installed without knowing. I mean, if you definitely can relate to that, especially if you've been browsing before 2018, which pretty much is everybody that has joined this session. So the amount of data that was collected was not being regulated, and so it became an issue, right? Data protection and privacy became important, and so then we had the party pooper, right? Then we started needing to regulate things, introduced the GDPR, which came around in somewhere around 2018, and users became more centric towards their privacy, protecting their data, getting back control. And then we started hearing buzzwords, especially if you've been in the marketing space, or of course if you've had chats with marketing guys. We started talking about the cookie, we started talking about GDPR, we started talking about TCF and consent and all that kind of stuff, right? And that was the issue, is simply because something went wrong. We weren't managing privacy for users correctly. And I mean, of course, just for reference, GDPR, you can, if you're not, if you've just been throwing it around, it means a general data regulation, data protection regulation. TCF would mean transparency and consent framework, which is pretty much what creates an environment where the user websites can manage consent. So you visit a website, um, because the website is TCF compliant, they will tell you look, we're collecting so and so cookies for advertising purposes, for preference purposes, blah blah blah, and you can choose to opt in or out. Some don't give you the options to opt out. I'm sorry. On behalf of them, I apologize, but it's a tough world to build. When users are more data woke, privacy woke, and and then you have CMPs, which are management providers, which every brand that has a bit of traffic to their site should be using. And it's simply because CMPs are those kinds of tech or ad tech platforms that help you to get user consent to collect and store, user information of whoever is visiting the websites, right? So these are the core players when we start talking about data protection. When we start talking about digital privacy across the internet, we start talking about there's a lot we can say when we delve into the conversation of digital and data privacy, right? Um, we can start talking about the GDPR, particularly the details of what registers as legitimate interest, um, as far as the GDPR is concerned, before users can before brands can target you with their ads. So like there is a whole bunch of stuff that we could talk about, but is beyond the scope of this session, and typically this session is not meant to be so very technical, because we have a diverse group of of guys uh uh in the audience, and we're not going to bore them. I see your questions. I see one come in. This is definitely open to discussion. I will of course talk about it once we get to a good point, a very good point in the conversation. So yes, these are the party rules. These are the party poopers that came in and crushed the cookies business. And today we're talking about the deprecation of third-party cookies. What that simply means is that um, browsers will no longer store third-party cookies, right? So browsers will no longer allow you to, all browsers or most browsers, let me say, that will no longer allow you to store uh, or allow brands to store cookies, right? And this is in effect protecting the users. And what this means is, like we said, every domain that generates its own cookies, that's the cookie generated by google.com, or let's say any domain you go in to log in or something like that, that is called a first party cookie, for reference, right? And a cookie generated by another brand, an advertiser, an ad tech platform that they use to advertise, that type of cookie that is generated and put in someone else's domain is called a third party cookie, right? And third party cookies are what we mostly use to advertise today, right? 90 about before the thought of cookie deprecation, about 100%, of ads that were run with third party cookies. And what that means is, when you say that cookies will be stopped, when Google says they're going to stop using the cookie in 2024, it simply means that advertising as we know it, the means for advertising, the ticket, the coin that we use to advertise that really stores the data, is going to crash. And so brands should literally be panicking and looking for alternatives. That's the core reality, right? And that's where we start talking about why Google can say that kind of thing. So a large percentage of users use the Google Chrome browser, and like we said, um, cookies are stored in browsers, right? And that's how they get able to track users. And if 60% of the world's digital population is using Google Chrome, and Chrome says it's going to stop using third-party cookies in 2024, it means that 60% of your potential reach, of the potential audience you can reach on the internet with ads, is going to stop using, is not going to be available for you anymore. So it makes you should be panicking as much as you're considering alternatives. And What this would mean for all is that we're going to start preparing ahead of 2024. It sounds like a long time, but when you consider the fact that Google has not found a um, solid alternative for third-party cookie advertising, then you know that most of the advertising realm is in trouble, right? And brands are going to be the ones who pay dearly for this kind of mistake. I mean, Google has announced a couple of solutions that they have, but you can tell that um, from Google Flock to whatever it is they're calling it now, you can tell that there's still some work to be done. So um, there's a lot that will go into preparing for the third party deprecation, and that's where we talk about what other alternatives that brands and advertisers have. There are a couple of them, right? Um, and I'm going to talk about three or four of them, right? So we've talked about Google's privacy centric, um, excuse me, Google's Flock, right? They've changed it to Google Cohorts, and like we said, they own the largest share of the market. They're able to reach the largest percentage of users, right? And most brands, most agencies already use Google Ads or Google Display and Video 360 platforms, which are, for the benefit of those who don't use those platforms, they are, of course, platforms that marketers and advertisers use to launch ads, right? For example, and if you use that and you're looking for a solution from Google, it's not coming anytime soon, and that's why option one is really not an option. So we're going to push it to the bar. What we can do now is to practice, as it were, ahead of when the internet turns dark, ahead of when data for advertising turns dark. And how we can practice is to leverage existing browsers that have already shifted to first party cookies. Right? That is one way we can do that. One way we can do that is to leverage first party cookies more. It means that as a brand, you need to invest in collecting first party data, right? You should be considering it a top priority, right? That is your new option one, because browsers like Safari, Apple Safari, and Mozilla Firefox, focused they're already focused on first party IDs. It means first party cookies. Now, the ID, the identifier, is a part of the cookie. So, of course, we're calling it first party IDs. Now, it's more accurate, it's more reliable because that's the exact data identity. And I should have mentioned this earlier and it just popped up now. One of the major differences between first party and third party cookies is that first party cookies are data points that describe a specific, very specific user. So you log into the platform, a cookie is tracking you, a cookie is dropped in your browser that identifies this is who this person is, right? Uh, that's the first party cookie, right? Now for third party cookies, they're slightly different because they're more probabilistic, right? So they're built based on a user's digital journey across the internet. So sometimes they're probabilistic because they're based on assumptions. For example, I said previously, I'm looking for maybe I just have a 3 month goal to lose belly fat, and I'm looking for gear that will help me do so. Like, so I'm looking for workout material, training material, and all that stuff, right? It does not necessarily mean that I'm a sports fan. I might be doing it for health reasons, right? But based on my journey, a third party cookie will have you assume that I am part of core sports fans. And what happens when I have reached my goal and I'm no longer interested, in working out, in all those things and stuff? You would still be serving me ads based on the third party cookie assumption that I'm a sports fan. You will still be serving me ads for maybe top sports games and stuff, things that I'm not interested in, and at that point it becomes a no for me, right? So third-party cookies are more probabilistic, and first-party data is more accurate and reliable. That's one major point, one major reason why brands and advertisers should be preparing to focus on first-party data, right? So how do you collect? You leverage on several touch points, right, that your customers already use. All of the data that you already have, right? So your social media, your call center, your point of sale, your checkout, they log in at some point to your platform. Then you have ways to track them with first party cookie. Now we're not going to go into the geeky or technicalities of how to implement first party data, but I'm just going to touch on them, just paraphrase them for reference. If we're going to talk about the geeky parts, the core parts of how you really implement them, then you're going to need to talk to a specialist. You should be talking to a specialist that will help you implement these things. I am a specialist, and we can talk about that maybe some other time. Again, ADPList is free. You can set up a session. We can have that chat and go into a bit more detail, right? But for now, let's just talk about it from a summarized point of view. All right. So content creation will not disappear. Email marketing remains important. So this time you can build stronger relationship with your customers, get valuable insights from them, request valuable insights, and still work around building your first party data, right? That is a sure way, the first way to get started. Because once you have first party data, then you can talk about enlarging your ad tech scope, your ad tech stack. And that means that if you were relying on Google Ads, Facebook ads, and all that stuff alone, you're going to need alternatives, right? So you're going to need to also work with um, what I might call it. You're going to need to work with platforms like CDP, customer data platforms, and they're different from CRMs, right? CRMs just help you track user conversations. They're great for customer management and all that stuff. CDPs are like they go deeper, right? So they help you get real data, and combining CDPs with a DMP, which is a data management platform. Again, geek words, but we cannot avoid talking about those things. So if you're in marketing space, if you're in the advertising space, you probably have heard of a DMP, you've heard of a CDP. And when you don't have, most people usually think that you have to pick one of them. No, you should be doing both of them, because leveraging a CDP means you can make more sense of your customer data that you already have and find a way to convert that into bringing in more customers for you. So you have a database of 50,000 customers, for example, 200 customers or 5,000 customers. And if you use a CDP, you would be able to aggregate some data on them. And you would already have what we call personal identifying information, right? PII. And PIIs are what is used to generate first party data, right? Or first party IDs, right? So they can be used to generate first party IDs. So if you already have a database of email addresses and some other bit of information, you can definitely use that to create. And when I say database of email addresses, I mean users that have logged into your platform, that have signed up for your platform. You can use that part of information to create first party data, right? Work with the CDP, connect that to a DMP, and then connect that to your Google DV360. No, you wouldn't be able to do that with Google Ads. It just wouldn't work. Google Ads is working on the ad network level. It's like the most basic layer of programmatic advertising or of ad tech that you need, right? So you can use that, build lookalike audiences. If you use Facebook ads, for example, you can already and you can leverage first party ID. Again, these are conversations that you should be having with agencies, right? You should be talking about, how to leverage such things with a consultant or with an agency. Again, happy to talk more about these things, but for the sake of time, we're going to focus on the core parts of this conversation, which is how can you build you thrive ahead of the cookieless, or when third party cookie dies, right? We've talked about building first party data. The second thing you can do is leverage ad tech platforms that already have a solution. Google doesn't. And what that means is that you need to find other platforms, other alternatives that have a solution. I'm an ex Adfirm employee, so I'm going to talk about Adfirm. Adfirm is one of the leading independent platforms that gives you that flexibility, that actually has a solution, that has had a solution in the works without even knowing that the third party cookie would be deprecated, right? So since 2018, Adfirm has been working on a tool. It was first released in 2020, which is Adfirm's ID Fusion tool, right? What ID Fusion does in a nutshell is to find, um, um, work with identifiers. Now, identifiers are types of IDs that recognize first party cookies, right? And what ID Fusion, Adfirm's ID Fusion does is to work with identifiers like that and help you reach first party ID um, users across the internet. It's already been done. I have run several campaigns, several test campaigns on this in several markets. Whether you're in Africa, you're in the Middle East, you're in the APAC region, you're in Europe, you're in North or South America. It works. It works like a charm, right? And you're running it. You should start running tests now so that you understand the kind of data that you would get if you're relying only on Mozilla Firefox and Safari browsers, which currently, as I've mentioned before, are the only browsers that already support, or are the major browsers that already support only first party IDs, right? So what this means is that once the internet goes dark, you would not be able, once there are no third party cookies anymore in 2024, or if Google, for example, has stopped using third party cookies, you would not be able to reach users the same way you're reaching them currently, which is, I mean, through ads, the same way you're reaching them currently, which is through third party cookie advertising. You would not be able to retarget them, you would not be able to track them. Essentially, your ad um, part of of your marketing stack goes dead, right? Which is why you especially need to start looking for a solution now. We've talked about Atom's ID Fusion. We can talk about other players like the Trade Desk, right? So the Trade Desk is also a programmatic advertising platform. It has a solution called Universal ID 2, right? So Universal ID 2.0 or UID 2.0 helps to, establish or identify unique users by using a different type of ID, right? Yeah, is called unique user ID, right? So it assigns unique user IDs to every type of user on the internet. So you can still do targeted advertising, you can do all those things. It's a solution, right? So that is one of the solutions. So essentially, option two is to look for platforms that have figured it out, right? Because Google has not. And if Google has not, then you're going to be in mess, right? Google Ads can reach a bulk of the internet or bulk of the digital users across the web and mobile, but you know, other ad networks can also reach these, and other ad platforms can also reach these, right? So it's one way to really make you good use of alternatives. We've talked about platforms. We've talked about the first option we talked about was building a first party ID um, stack for yourself, working to get first party data, building your own first party data pool. The second thing we talked about was working with platforms, ad tech platforms, programmatic platforms that can, and I've mentioned two good options. If I mention a lot of them, you're going to probably be lost for choice. Basically, once you have a lot of options, you'll probably be confused. So I'm going to narrow it down to two. Try Atom or the Trade Desk. You could research a couple of other options. But yes, um, piggybacking off that, you also need to get CDP, right? You need to research what a CDP is and how to get a CDP. A good example, a good option, a great option for you is Telium. Tealium. Telium is a great CDP, but there are other options if you're not an enterprise customer. If you're not a B2B enterprise that serves a large number of users and is really interested in investing in a heavy CDP, if you're not going to use Telium, you can use a bunch of others, right? So that really charge on a monthly basis, have a smaller but small, yes, slightly less capacities than the enterprise CDPs, but they're affordable, and you can get start using them. Some of them have subscriptions as cheap as $200 monthly. Now, it may sound expensive to you, but when you consider the value, it can help you get by helping you build your own first party data pool. Then you should it's a no-brainer, right, to be honest. And the third solution is to look at what we can achieve with contextual advertising. So what contextual advertising does is to um, run ads through keyword targeting or topic based targeting instead of behavioral tracking, which is what third party cookies generally do. So instead of using the cookie data to run to track and serve ads to users, you could use um, contextual advertising, which focuses on topics and keywords rather than behavioral tracking. So users would still get to see the relevant ads on the content on type of content that they're consuming. So if I'm reading a blog on Adobe, for example, or BMW, for example, a BMW team can focus on contextual targeting on some particular products, right? So if you does anyone drive a BMW? Or are you a BMW fan? Let me see a two finger like or something like that. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, great. So you're familiar with BMW products. Let's say you drive the X4, the X5, or the X6, or something like that. And then you read about it. You bought a BMW, so you're interested, for example, in after sales. You're looking for how to get the best mechanic, how to get the best parts, and all that kind of stuff. So typically, you would be reading content about that sometimes on some blogs and some auto blogs and all that kind of stuff. And what a smart BMW guy would think about is, okay, how can I use contextual advertising to reach you guys like you? They would then start targeting keywords related to their brand or related to their competition. If I'm BMW, I will be targeting Audi, um, similar Audi products, similar Audi cars, or people in that luxury category and all that stuff. So I will target them, and I will still reach the users with contextual advertising simply because it works based on topics and and stuff, not based on not based on um, behavioral tracking. So I mean, we've chatted for a while, and I've just got the notice that time is almost up. Uh, so let's focus on your questions. I'm going to try to answer them as quickly as possible, so as many of them as possible. So, what are the key alternatives in the ads targeting space you've seen in cookieless scenarios? I've mentioned them. I've highlighted alternatives. You can do advertising. Brands are already doing that. I've done that for several brands, right? So, regardless of the cookieless cookie deprecation, um, working contextual advertising, build a first party data pool, and three, improve your ad tech stock. Start working with programmatic advertising. If you've not been doing that, it broadens your reach, improves a lot of stuff that you can do, right? Whether you're doing it for acquisition of web users or app users, programmatic can help you. If you're working for apps, you can work with mobile measurement partners like Coachava, Adjust, AppsFlyer. So when you track app installs, when you have app installs, you can track, deep app actions or activity, right? Um, Losing the cookie means wouldn't that affect Google as well? Since exactly it affects Google, and I feel that's one of the reasons why they're hesitant, right? Um, on doing the cookie deprecation, because it means that they have to come up with new product. It will affect their ad revenue, so they're a bit hesitant to to stop using the third party cookie. So they have to keep pushing and pushing the end date forward so that they can work on a solution and still retain ad revenue. It affects Google. Will companies begin to move over to living on blockchains because of the future cookieless world? I would say, based on what I think, I don't think so. Right? It may be an option, right? But you already have solutions that are not based on blockchain. So will they be dependent on blockchain? Not likely. what will happen if every tech company enter the Web3 era related to the cookie stuff? Will still be required. Will still be able to acquire new users regardless of that, Web3 or not. Okay, so Web3 is just, I feel like Web3 is just an extra layer to the digital channel. The digital channel remains, right? It doesn't matter if it's Web3 or Web50. So we will still be using cookies for now. If the future is totally cookieless, that's okay. We will find some way, right? So there will still be alternatives. Don't worry about that. Web3 or not, we'll do that. If everyone logs and owns our data as a first party, that wouldn't that cause a privacy concern? So there are guidelines, which is why I said you need to be GDPR compliant, you need to be TCF compliant, and you need a content management platform. Users have to consent to to work with to give your data or work with you. So it won't be a privacy concern because there are already printing pools in place to guide that. And finally, what's the alternate plan for Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox for this third-party cookies? Mozilla Firefox uses first-party cookies, so it's already an alternative to your Google Chrome, right? Google Chrome also has some um, first-party data, right? So, yep, time is up. So thank you so much, guys. You can make some research on it. We'll catch up sometime. Book me an ADP list and talk later. Take care, guys. Bye.